The television courtroom has a unique way of stripping away a person's carefully constructed armor. For decades, it has stood as an equalizer, a place where titles, designer clothing, and massive bank accounts hold absolutely zero currency. But on this crisp Tuesday morning, a young man entered the room who truly believed the world would always bend for him. His name was Dominic Ashford. At just 24 years old, Dominic possessed the kind of wealth that breeds an effortless, quiet arrogance. He didn't look angry or defensive. Instead, he looked completely bored. Before the bailiff could even instruct him to do so, Dominic casually strolled to the defense table, sat down, and crossed one ankle over his knee. With a practiced air of indifference, he pulled out his phone, treating a serious legal proceeding as a minor background inconvenience. He didn't realize that he was standing before a bench that has zero patience for performative privilege. The voice from the bench cut through the courtroom like a razor. "Put that phone away." Dominic slowly blinked, slid the phone into his pocket, and smirked. He genuinely believed that his family's massive fortune and social standing made him entirely untouchable. He had no idea that over the next 15 minutes, his comfortable, insulated life of privilege was about to be completely and systematically dismantled. To understand the gravity of why Dominic Ashford was standing in this courtroom, you have to look at the charges leveled against him on the docket. On paper, the words look sterile and procedural: reckless endangerment of a pedestrian, failure to render aid, and a hit and run within a private parking structure. But in real life, those clinical legal terms translated to a moment of pure, unadulterated human cruelty. The incident had taken place a week prior in the concrete depths of a luxury residential parking garage. Patricia O'Day, a 61-year-old home health aide, had just finished a grueling 12-hour shift. Her body was exhausted, her hands heavy with 2 bags of groceries. Despite her own fatigue, Patricia had stopped at the store to buy food using her own hard-earned money, simply because she knew the elderly patient she was caring for had an empty refrigerator. As Patricia walked toward the garage elevator, the quiet space was suddenly shattered by the roaring echo of an engine. Dominic's massive luxury SUV tore around the blind corner, traveling at a speed far exceeding the posted 5-mile-per-hour limit. The impact was sudden and violent. The heavy vehicle clipped Patricia, sending her crashing hard onto the unforgiving concrete. The force of the fall fractured her wrist, and her grocery bags burst open, sending the food she had bought rolling across the dirty floor. But instead of slamming on the brakes, the luxury SUV didn't even slow down. It kept moving up the ramp, leaving an injured elderly woman crying out for help in the dark. Now sitting at the plaintiff's table, Patricia O'Day looked remarkably small next to the polished mahogany furniture. She wore a simple faded cardigan, her injured wrist heavily wrapped in a medical brace. She didn't cry, she didn't yell, and she didn't perform her pain for the cameras. She simply sat with her hands resting on a thin manila folder, looking like a woman who had worked hard every single day of her life because she simply didn't have the luxury not to. When it was her turn to speak, truth arrived without a single shred of decoration. She testified quietly, describing the blinding flash of headlights, the agonizing pain in her wrist, and the terrifying sound of the SUV driving away. But it was what happened next that made the courtroom gallery gasp. Patricia explained that as she lay on the concrete, unable to stand, she heard the heavy metallic door of the stairwell click open. A young man walked out. He didn't look around in confusion. He walked directly toward the elevator. Patricia called out to him, begging for help, her voice echoing off the concrete walls. The young man paused, looked directly down at her bleeding knees and fractured wrist, and then, without saying a single word, he turned his back, stepped into the elevator, and vanished. The judge leaned forward, her eyes narrowing into cold slits. Mrs. O'Day, is the man who walked past you sitting in this courtroom today? With a steady, trembling finger, Patricia pointed across the aisle. Yes, Your Honor. He is sitting right there. What was truly astonishing wasn't just Patricia's heartbreaking testimony. It was the way Dominic Ashford listened to it. As the elderly woman described being abandoned on the floor, Dominic didn't look at her. He didn't offer a single flicker of remorse. Instead, he stared at a specific point on the wall just above her head. It was the exact practice gaze people use when they want to give the vague appearance of listening without the heavy emotional burden of actually recognizing another human being's suffering. The judge hit the bench with a sharp rap of her knuckle, forcing Dominic to look her in the eye. Mr. Ashford, I want to hear from you. Did you or did you not know that a human being was injured in that garage when you walked away? Dominic straightened his designer jacket, entirely unbothered. When he spoke, it became instantly clear that he had never been forced to account for his actions a day in his life. He looked directly at the bench and said, Your Honor, there were severe visual limitations within the environment that are highly relevant to understanding my unique perception of events at that time. The courtroom went dead silent. The gallery couldn't believe what they were hearing. It was completely hollow lawyer language, a shield constructed of clinical words designed to hide a lack of basic human empathy. The judge didn't blink. A cold, dangerous smile formed on her lips. Mr. Ashford, you might think that lawyer talk works in your social circles, but it doesn't work on my bench. Your perception doesn't matter here. You know what matters? The security footage. Bailiff, roll the tape. Let's all watch your perception together. The monitors in the courtroom flickered to life, displaying the gray, high-contrast feed of the parking structure's security camera. The video was short, brutal, and entirely undeniable. There was Patricia walking peacefully toward the elevator with her grocery bags. Then Dominic's white SUV entered the frame, moving entirely too fast for an enclosed space. The camera caught the exact second of impact. The audience winced as Patricia was thrown to the ground. The SUV didn't tap its brakes for even a millisecond. It just accelerated up the ramp. Then came the definitive blow to Dominic's defense. The timestamp on the screen ticked forward by 2 minutes. The stairwell door opened, and Dominic Ashford walked out. The high-definition camera captured his face perfectly. He walked directly past Patricia, slowed his pace, looked straight down at her as she held her fractured wrist, and then casually pressed the elevator button. The doors opened, he stepped inside, and the screen went black. Dominic's defense attorney instantly jumped to his feet, desperately trying to deploy the usual corporate legal tools. He began rambling about camera compression, blind spots, lighting angles, and alternative interpretations of body language. And then the defense attorney made the fatal mistake that wealthy defendants always make. He adjusted his glasses and smoothly said, Your Honor, we must maintain a proper sense of proportion here. The Ashford family has donated millions to this city's civic projects, built hospitals, and created thousands of jobs. Dominic comes from a legacy of extreme public service. The judge's gaze turned to absolute ice. That was the exact moment many courtrooms begin to bend under the weight of influence. But this room does not bend. Stop right there, the judge commanded, her voice dropping into a terrifyingly calm register. She ignored the high-priced attorney entirely and looked out into the spectator gallery. Is Richard Ashford in this courtroom today? From the third row of the gallery, an older gentleman stood up. He wore a simple dark suit, but he carried himself with an undeniable authority. This was Richard Ashford, a self-made billionaire, a real estate mogul, and a man whose name was literally carved into the stone facades of buildings across the state. Slowly, the billionaire walked down the aisle, stepped past the swinging wooden gate, and approached the podium. The defense attorney stepped back, assuming the family patriarch was about to use his massive influence to rescue his son. Instead, Richard Ashford looked at the judge and then turned his head to look directly at his son. The disappointment in the older man's eyes was absolute. Your Honor, Richard said, his voice echoing clearly through the microphone. I have watched the security footage, and there is no camera angle, no lighting issue, and no amount of legal language that can change what an honest person can see with their own eyes. My son hit a defenseless woman with a car, and then he walked past her while she was bleeding on the floor. Dominic's smug expression instantly shattered. His jaw dropped, his face turning pale as he stared at his father in complete shock. Richard Ashford turned away from his son, looked directly at Patricia O'Day, and bowed his head. Mrs. O'Day, as the father of the man who walked past you, I am deeply, profoundly sorry. You deserve dignity, and my son showed you none. The billionaire turned back to the bench. Your honor, my name, my money, and my civic standing have absolutely nothing to do with the facts of this case, and they should have absolutely nothing to do with your ruling. The atmosphere in the room shifted entirely. The insulation of wealth had been completely stripped away, not by the court, but by the very man who had created it. The judge reached for her gavel, her voice ringing out with absolute authority. Dominic Ashford, look at me. Your facts are incredibly simple. A 61-year-old woman worked a 12-hour shift to care for the vulnerable and used her own money to buy them food. You tore through a garage, struck her, broke her bone, and walked past her like she was garbage. You are guilty on all counts. The judge slammed her gavel down with a resounding crack. Here is your judgment, she announced. You will pay full restitution for Ms. O'Day's medical costs, every single cent of her lost wages, and the cost of her ruined groceries. And hear me clearly, this will be paid entirely by you, from your own personal accounts, not by your father and not through a family trust. Dominic stammered, trying to speak, but the judge cut him off. Furthermore, your driver's license is suspended for 1 full calendar year, and you will complete 240 hours of direct mandatory service with the city's elder care volunteer program. You will provide transportation, buy groceries, and offer in-home companionship. You are going to spend the next year of your life serving the exact demographic of working people whose labor and vulnerability you have learned to ignore. The judge leaned forward, her eyes piercing straight through him. And finally, you will write a handwritten apology to Ms. O'Day. If it reads like a lawyer drafted it or a family advisor polished it, I will make you sit in a room and write it again until it sounds like a human being acknowledging another human being. Before Dominic could even process the weight of the sentence, his father stepped up to the microphone one last time. And Your Honor, to ensure he complies, I am officially suspending Dominic's access to all family assets and money for the entire duration of his community service. I put my name on buildings, but I should have made sure my son understood what it means to actually earn one. 6 months after that explosive day in court, the volunteer coordinator for the city's elder care program sent a formal progress note back to the judge's chambers. The note contained a very specific detail. It stated that on a rainy Tuesday morning, before his shift assisting elderly residents with their grocery shopping, Dominic Ashford had arrived early. He sat alone in his car for 11 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, wrestling with his own reluctance. But then the clock struck 8. Dominic opened the door, stepped out into the rain, and went to work. That small, quiet detail mattered deeply to the court. True justice isn't about spectacle, revenge, or tearing someone down for entertainment. True justice is about creating a space where the truth cannot be ignored, where consequences must be faced, and where an arrogant young man who thought he was completely insulated from the world is finally given the hardest, most valuable gift of all, the chance to change, to grow, and to become better than the person who walked past.